Alright, welcome back to another Last of Us review where today we're going to be talking about episode 7, Left Behind. And look, we've got a new Ellie cosplay going on now. She's got the old Nathan Drake shirt and the red jumper, so we can switch things up now. So speaking of the new attire, well actually, we'll just get into the episode first actually, because I wanted to talk about that because there's a lot of nice references in this episode. But first we're going to start off with my general thoughts of the episode, and then we'll go into spoiler territory, and then my thoughts for the future episodes. So firstly, my thoughts of the episode, I literally just finished watching it like 10 minutes ago. I like to do these like fresh off the press while it's in my mind. I liked this episode, and goddamn, there's been a lot of scenes throughout the series that I've been like, they didn't quite hit for me. Now, I don't know if I'm just a big old fucking sap for love now, but this episode got me. I'm not like blubbing on my sofa or anything, but I was like, wow, I felt it. I felt the ending, and I was like, it was not, I think it's because it had the same sentiment as the original ending, even though it's slightly remixed, slightly different. But the performance was still there, the lines were still there, it felt authentic. And I think that's my main takeaway from this episode, is that this is the first episode where I really felt like it was the game. Like, that's the only way I can kind of describe it, I guess. Like, it just felt very true to what happened, even though things were slightly different and remixed and shuffled about in order of events. With Ellie and Riley's story, which I forgot to mention, if you haven't watched the episode, it is about Ellie and Riley. It is based on the Left Behind DLC. And so, finding out what happened to Ellie. And I wasn't expecting it to be the full episode, I guess. I was wondering as well if they would do the same thing that they do in the game, where it's like mirroring Ellie's, journey in the mall in real life and her past experience in the mall. But I totally get why that wasn't there, because that was a very gameplay thing. Like when you're Ellie in the present day, that's for combat, for part of the game. But of course, in this, it's mainly just for story purposes, which we're here for because it's a TV show. So I just want to talk, as always, every week I have to say the same thing. Props to the set design, props to the costume design. So they're doing this episode in particular, which is why I was referencing the outfit. There were so many Easter eggs in this. I was like, I know that. My favourite being the Macho Nacho. Shout out to Elena who worked at a Macho Nacho. If you got that reference, I know that you know your Naughty Dog shit. We know that. There was just like Raja's, like, the arcade, even the bunny in the snaps, like, oh, take a picture, do something cool. Like, it was all there. Even some of the shops, this is how much I played the game. The E-Spirit shop is a shop that you have a fight in the Left Behind DLC when you're in the present day Ellie. Like, everything. There was the Dawn of the Wolf poster. There was so much good stuff happening that if you are a fan of the games, there's lots of nice little like winks and nods to you, which I really enjoyed. So overall, I thought it was a cool episode. I liked seeing, I really liked seeing a bit of more to what Ellie was doing before she met, Joel and all that, and what we see in the DLC, because it shows a little bit of Fedra camp life and what was happening, which we only get alluded to in the game. So I think that's pretty cool to see some of that world and what Ellie could have been. Like, the guy saw potential in her. Then after that, it very pretty much closely follows the events of the DLC and all the things. Like, there are so many little nice cutscene moments, which we saw in the show that happens in the game. Little moments like drinking the alcohol and the pun book. Like, I liked it. Now, whilst I enjoyed watching it, there were points where I was kind of like, because it was so faithful, I was kind of like, oh yeah, I know what happens. But I did think the ending delivered. And what I would also like to give a shout out to, set design, I always give a shout out to you. Costume design, I always give a shout out to you. But I will say that the other thing that I think really sold this episode for me and made it feel like an episode of The Last of Us was the music was just the music. We didn't have any other bullshit music happening, no offense. But it was the music from the game, maybe slightly a little bit remixed. There was a nice little flute remix of the Left Behind music. The music is so good. It was all in it. All the music was pulled directly out of the game. Well, apart from Take On Me. The I got you, babe. Da, da, da. And then even the ending music. I was like, yes, this is what I want. There was no stupid, like, let's just shove in, like, a popular song at the end with the credits. It was just the game's music. I think that is what sold it for me. We need more. We need more of the original music, please, because that's what grounds me in this world. That's what makes me connect. I feel really passionate about this. I think that's why at the ending I felt the emotion, because the ending had the music, and the music invokes the emotions that I felt when playing the game. God, I don't know why I feel so passionate about this. But yeah, that's what I was thinking this whole time. I was like, Good stuff. So yeah, I like the episode. I was a little worried at first before we got into the episode that it was going to be a little bit like that episode of Stranger Things when 11 runs off and goes and meets 8 and it's all like, but thankfully not. Well, actually, I don't know. I'm really interested to see if people who haven't played the game, if they're like, was that a filler episode to them? What did they find it interesting? Because I think it's good to know like that stuff about Ellie, and also informs her decision of what happens with the Joel stuff, even though it is a little convenient that she opens the drawer and the sewing kit is just there. So as we're talking about it, let's move into the spoiler zone. I feel like hopefully that was non-spoilery enough for all you non-spoiler fans, but let's throw the spoiler hand up as we move in to spoiler territory. Okay, so I don't even know what I want to say actually in the spoiler zone that I haven't already said. I guess let's skip to the fact that, well, let's start at the beginning. So a lot of it is very, like I said, faithful to what happens in the game. So they're in that garage area, which is what looks like straight out of the game, and like Joel's on the floor and he's got his like wound. Now Joel is conscious this time, which is slightly different. Oh my God, I just remember the other bit that got me. I was like, we'll get to it. We'll get to it when we get to the end. So yeah, and then he's just like, just leave, go get to Tommy and all that. And then she's like gonna leave, but then that's when she has the flashback of what happened to her the last time she liked somebody. And well, we don't actually see. I guess maybe we'll talk about it more in the future because we know what happens. Well, those of us who played the game know what happened, but I don't know if it's really. Well, I guess I guess just like the game, you have to infer that. Well, actually, in this world, you fucking turn in like 5 hours, it seems. And then you're like, ah! Whereas I feel like in the game world, like when Riley probably turned, Ellie probably knew it was like, and could get out of there before it really shit hit the fan. But in this one, she would have had to hightail it quite quickly. She'd be like, Riley, blah, blah, like how Sam almost jumped on her in the previous episode. Anyway, that's all semantics. I'm sure it was poetic and beautiful, even though I do feel like turning is an awful option. But I suppose if they took the easy way out, then they wouldn't have found out that Ellie was immune and all that. So anyway, she has the flashback and it goes back to her life in Fedra. Riley comes to visit her. And another thing I'd like to point out, I really liked that even though she wasn't wearing the outfit from Left Behind, the t-shirt that she wore had the same stripe effect from Left Behind. I like it. So all of that stuff was pretty faithful. I did like the way that they tried to pretend like something scary was happening, then Riley just comes in and you're like, okay. Like the going across the rooftops. Also at Sky Go though, done us wrong with these weird ad breaks at weird times. They didn't actually follow the same ad breaks as the actual show, which was very annoying for pacing. But that's a minor gripe. Anyway, so they get to the mall, and the mall thing looked amazing when it was switched on, and I was like, whoa, this is just like out of the game. It was so good. And I'd like to point out the escalator thing, because I do like the way when she gets on the escalator in the game, it's like, whoa, what the fuck? Like she's like proper taken aback by it, and even in this, she's like going up and down. I have noticed something about this. Oh, I should have mentioned this in non-spoiler, but I'm sure people who are just watching this will know anyway. This version of Ellie seems a little bit more dorky, in my opinion. I don't know if that's like something that anyone else is getting, but you know, the way she goes and like, you know, storms off a bit, whereas our Ellie's a bit more like cocksure of herself. I say our Ellie as in like, you know, the game Ellie, but you know, what I feel like this Ellie is kind of trying to give it the big I am more than she really is. Like she's putting on a front. Whereas I feel like the game Ellie believes it and she's like, fuck you, whatever. Whereas this Ellie's like, like, you know, she bangs her head on things. She's like, but I feel like this review is all over the place. I have so many thoughts. I'll get to this at the end. Anyway, so then we have the nice moment on the, you know, the horse Ferris wheel thing. I was like, okay, they skipped the Halloween store, but they came back to the Halloween store at the end, which I was like, I see what you did there. That was a good setting for that to happen. I really like the stuff in the arcade and obviously the photo booth. It was cool as well, like to see how money is just redundant in the future. Like if that happened, it's just nothing. It's just trash. Like they're technically rich in the arcade, but it's just worthless, all the money. So I did like how they actually played they played Mortal Kombat. That was nice. And so a slight difference with this one is, which I kind of get, there's only one infected, whereas in the game, the mall is like totally full of infected. So they just have this one that sort of stirs, I guess. I was wondering if they were going to do the tendril thing, where there's some tendrils that suddenly awaken because they, I don't know, sense beings. But no, it's just the one, I guess, that kind of sense it and comes up. I get it because it's probably a little too much to, they have to scale back some of the encounters in the TV show, because I feel like they need to keep an air of realism that video games don't have to, because you kind of like take, you know, it's like it's a video game. There could be hundreds and we can outrun them. Yeah, so playing the video game was really cool. I like how it's actually Mortal Kombat, even though in the game it's, what is it? Turning point with angel knives, that's it. And then we get to, then they have their little bust up there instead where she's like, oh, don't, actually that does kind of happen, but then they still follow. They don't have the water gun fight, but I do like the stuff with Ellie and they're talking about like, is it a dinosaur? Like setting up all that. And then they get to the Halloween store. Oh yeah, that's when she storms off because she's mad that she's going to leave. Then she comes back and then they have the final scene in the Halloween store, which was really cool because they have the actual mask. Sad that they didn't have the brick fucking master, because that is a quote and a half. But you know, they're not. Maybe they could have thrown bricks. I don't know. They could have been a montage of fun. Who knows? Anyway, so they're in the Halloween store. They have the actual like mask. So what am I, the fucking Wolfman? Like raw. All right. Like none of that stuff happened, but I just know the words. And so then this time they get up and they play the song. I got you, babe. Like great, good stuff. I'm loving it. They're dancing. They're having fun. And then the moment happens. Now, I like how in the game the moment happens while the music is playing because I do like that the bit where Riley has her dog tag of being a firefly and she pulls it off and that's like a sign that yeah she's staying. But I thought this was anyway, even though that didn't quite happen. I thought the scene still played out really well. I really felt the emotion between the two characters and I was like yay! I was very happy. It was like beforehand, which I thought was quite interesting. But I suppose you know it's TV. They were giving the heavy foreboding that Ellie liked Riley, but you just didn't know if Riley liked her back with all the like the hand holding. Let's linger on the hand holding camera. Let's linger on Ellie looking wistfully at Riley. Whereas in the game, it's not as heavy handed. I don't know how I feel about the heavy handed nature of it. I was a little like, is this really necessary? But sure, whatever. So I suppose maybe they want to just like hammer the point home for the TV audience. I quite like how in the game, well, maybe it's because in the game you feel it because you're playing it. Maybe that's what it always comes back to because. And maybe it's also because I know anyway that that's what's going to happen. Whereas maybe if you're sitting down to watch it, you're not thinking that might be what it is. Anyway, I really liked that moment. I was really happy. And then, of course, the infected comes and they have that was quite a cool showdown, I will say. The whole, like, trying to escape, even though they had to fight one. And then they're, like, really happy that they did it because I guess it would be, like, a crazy sort of rush of adrenaline, wouldn't it? You just suddenly, like, you took on an infected by yourself. And then, Ellie, look at your arm. And then she does the thing that she does in the game. And then Riley puts her hand up. And this was when I was like, I don't know why. It was that moment I was like, no. Even though I knew it was going to happen. And I really liked then when it came back to the real life and Ellie's thinking about, no, I'm going to save Joel. And then she's going for the drawer, trying to find everything. And then it goes back to her smashing everything up, which I really liked. And then the poignant moment of we got two options there. No, the way I see it, we have two options. We either take the easy way out or, just lose our minds together, be all poetic and shit. I really liked how all of that was just there and it sort of felt authentic to the what happened. And I was like, yay, it was sad. And I was like, oh man, that would be awful. I think it's because as well, like, it is just an awful situation. Like, they're so young and they got bit. And then I really like when she comes back to save Joel. She's made the decision that she's going to save him. And for some reason, I don't know why, the next bit that got me is when, like, she was, like, her and Joel were, like, holding hands, like, they bonded. It's happened. Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm just in a weird mood today. But yeah, look, this week I'm not sleep deprived. That's what maybe has changed. So yeah, that bit, and then she sews him up and he's like, oh, and I was like, oh God, I can't watch this because I'm squeamish. And then the music's like, and I was like, yes. I just watched an episode of The Last of Us. That's how I felt. I was like, so yeah, that's my review. And also, I guess, slight reenactment. I enjoyed this episode a lot. I'm curious to see what other people think in the comments below. I'm especially curious. I might have to tap up my outsider resources to the people that are watching the show but haven't actually played the game to see what they thought about it. But I guess I liked it because it was, as I said, it felt like the game. And this is what I wanted to say originally at the top. It was really nice to see Bella Ramsey as Ellie standing on her own being the main character, which was something that, spoilers, I suppose, for the future, but that Ellie will become the main character of the series. And it was like, I didn't feel the absence of Pedro or Joel. Like, I was invested, I was fully into it, and I felt that this was her best performance as Ellie. Like, before I was saying, like, her Ellie seems kind of bratty and a little, like, different, but in this one I was like, yeah, this is our Ellie. Like, this is nice. And it was, I don't know, I felt like, cool. It was nice for her to have a leading, episode, and I thought she did a really good job, and it was a good story, plus the pun bit was great. New pun there, though. How do computers get drunk? They take screenshots. I like it. I'm a fan of a good pun. So I think that's all I have to say, because it was like, normally I talk about all the differences, but there wasn't that much apart from just a bit of a reordering and shuffling of things that happened. But I feel like it made sense for the TV show. So that's my thoughts on Left Behind. But what is coming up next? Well, we are episode 7 out of 9. I guess I can take the spoiler hand down now. This is just a future thoughts section. I don't have a brain section. It'll be like brain thoughts. Also, apologies. There's like stomping. There's pianos playing in the background. I don't know what you can hear. There's a fucking circus happening around me. So, next episode. I guess we have 2 episodes left. Does that mean that there's going to be 1 episode dedicated to winter and then 1 episode for the ending? That's got to be it, surely. That feels like a rush. I wish they'd spent less time on the hunters, to be honest, in Pittsburgh/Kansas City, so they could have more time on winter. I mean, I think the ending isn't even that long, actually. I looked it up. The last episode's only like 45 minutes. I guess, truly, when I play the game, the end does happen rather quickly. There's not really much that happens in spring. I always feel a bit sad when I get to spring, because I'm like, it's the end. It's a bit of like just padding slightly, because you're just like walking from that bridge to the hospital, and you're kind of just, the last moments are happening, and obviously there's the blah, 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 with the giraffe, which is always nice. But yeah, it does feel like it takes like a big like and so maybe they don't need to do all that, because I think you've got to feel it as a player, like that Ellie is distant from you, and it feels like, oh, I had so much fun going on this journey, and now there's like, feels a bit awkward. So maybe they don't need to do that as much. They could probably cut that bit out, I guess. But it's sad that winter will only have 1 episode, but then I suppose a lot of winter is like, depends how long you take trying to track down that deer. That could take you about an hour if you let it. So I guess we're going to get all of that. But how does that, hang on, how does that happen? I suppose the next episode is just like Joel still recovering from his injuries, and Ellie needs to go out and get medicine, which she says, I like the way she goes, he's like, what do you want, little girl, or whatever he says. She's like, medicine, we need medicine. I always say the way she says medicine, even though I would say medicine. I don't know if she says it as hard as I'm saying it. So I suppose she must probably go out, and she's like, looking after Joel, and we'll see all that stuff, and then David. Who's David? Who's going to be playing David, I wonder? Is he going to be creepy? So I guess that's going to be that whole thing, and then the ending, I suppose, will just be how that goes down. So yeah, that's my thoughts on Left Behind and my thoughts for the future of the show. 2 episodes down. Thank you so much for watching this review. I'm curious to hear your thoughts, and I shall be back next week for episode 8 out of 9. We'll break it down once more. So I guess that's all that's left for me to say is another quote. I'm going to say my favourite joke. I'll tell you my favourite joke from the joke book. It's, what did the triangle say to the circle? You're so pointless. I like that one. Anyways, see you next time.